Welcome to Navigating Now. This is episode 240. I am your host, Nicole Deal, a senior consultant here at Thoughtium. I'm so excited to welcome to the conversation today, Chris Homewood. Welcome, Chris. We're here to decode servant leadership, are we not?
Yes, we are. Hey, Nicole, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Great.
What's
Thank
one
you
word,
so much.
Chris?
Thanks
Sorry.
thanks so much for having me.
So happy to have you. One word for how you're coming in today.
Fired up. I know that's two. We're just going to call it a hyphen. Yeah.
Great. I'll take it. That's
Yeah.
great. I'm going to match that energy because I'm going to say I'm also fired up. This topic is super important to you and to me. But before we dive into it, let's let our viewers know who I have here with us. Chris Homewood, what do you want to share with this group?
Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me. A little bit about me, my background. I started my career as a Marine Corps officer and then got into retail. So I've been in retail for a long time. Started as a store manager, district manager, regional manager, vice president, general manager from a number of different business units. So I've done stores, loss prevention, supply chain for a number of different companies. So I had the good fortune to work for some really terrific organizations, Target, Ross Dress for Less, Circuit City when they were a good to great company back at the turn there in 2000. And then transitioned into more senior leadership. I worked for a company called Trimark. They did food service equipment distribution. So while in that role, I ran a couple of different companies as a president and did some mergers there. And then most recently was the CEO of a company called Channel Control Merchants. So we did reverse logistics retailer, so end-of-life inventory in Canada and in the Deep South. And I've been really fortunate to have some great mentors and coaches and some really great companies that I've stolen unashamedly all of the good stuff from and hopefully left the bad stuff behind.
You know, we call it here at Thoughtium stealing with pride.
There you go. Yes, with intention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. So top to bottom, and you've worn a lot of hats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it sounds like leadership has been just a theme and something very important to you through it all.
It has been. It really has been. I think I'm incredibly fortunate, I think, to get the opportunity to lead. I've always thought about it as something never about entitlement, but always about responsibility. And again, a lot of the things started with the Marine Corps, right? It's a 250-year-old leadership organization. So they've done a couple things right. And so a lot of that sort of anchored a lot of my beliefs and systems and structures and how I think about the privilege and the responsibility of leading teams and organizations. So it is something that I've tried to be a good student of, and obviously be incredibly aware of my responsibility to show up and be at my best.
I love that. Well, a student and a teacher, you know, for those listening, I had a chance to connect with Chris right before this call, and the intentionality that this man brings to the work that he does, not just in the day-to-day, but just how you show up, the way you, like, we're human beings, right? There's a lot of doing that we do, but just like your presence and the intentionality in how people see you. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. And hopefully our viewers can take a few little tidbits from this wise man that we have on today's session.
Oh, that's a high bar. Careful. Okay. All right. Now the pressure's on.
Let's talk servant leadership, shall we?
Absolutely. Where would you like to start?
How about in your own words, Chris, like how would you define it?
So I actually think that the term servant leadership could use a refresh.
Okay.
I think it's become a lot of things to a lot of people. I think that to some degree, and maybe weaponized is too strong of a word, but I have a perspective that there's real work involved in servant leadership. And I've had some experiences or seen some leaders that tend to view it as something that other people do for you, even though you use that term. So I view it as something, it's a covenant between a leader and an organization or a group of people. And it requires two people. It requires the leader to do work. And it also requires, the led to do work as well. And anytime that ratio gets skewed, then, it does get out of whack. If the leader is too much involved, you get into micromanaging and you don't really grow people for the road ahead of them. Mm-hmm. But conversely, on the other side, if it's, I'm a servant leader and people, can come to me and ask me whatever they want, well, that's a fairly passive approach.
Sure.
So I do think that leadership is a full contact sport. You have to get involved. You have to get deep. And I don't care what level you're at. You've got to, if you're going to lead, like you got to get in the trenches and you got to get your hands dirty.
Yeah, I love that, and it sounds like your provocative, new definition, which I'm totally on board with. It's a two-way dialogue. It's not just the leader's role in showing up in this, people first orientation. The strongest leaders have individuals, kind of, I guess, stepping into that as well. And what are they doing with the leader's expression, if that makes sense?
It does. It does. And my own personal theory of this is that I want to meet people where they are.
Mm,
So if you go through the process of hiring great, talented, educated, brilliant people, and then you don't figure out how to meet them where they are to really understand how do they become their very best, or how do I help them be at their very best? If you sit back and wait, it just I don't doesn't work for me.
yeah.
It really is, like I said, you have to get involved, and I really work hard. I've worked with organizations where leaders, the whole organization kind of pivots to match whatever the leader is, right? What's their personality, what's their style, and certainly there is some of that, but I like to think of, let's flip the script. Like, let's have leaders really think hard about, where is this person, who is this person, what do they need from me, in a way that really brings out what I think is the best in people and organizations.
You're hitting such a good point because it's this recognition that you have to lead people differently
Yes.
and based on the project, the task, right? We at Thoughtium, we talk about situational leadership, and
Hmm.
it's this idea, which you probably already know. It's like, do I have to put my directing hat on, or am I coaching you? Am I delegating? And you can wear those different hats with the same individual based on the situation or what the project or task calls for.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And one of the things, and again, I will apologize ahead of time for the Marine Corps references, but it's a fairly decent leadership organization. We talked about mission based leadership. So mission first, Marine always. Excuse
Mm,
me, mission first, Marines always. So you always have to care for your people, and in that sort of an environment, and that sort of an organization, and I would say it transcribes into any organization. You got to take care of people. Are
mhm.
they so in the kind of the Marine Corps version? Are they fed? Are they cared for? Is their housing taken care of? Are they managing their money? Like, that's sort of an extreme version. But then in the regular world, right? Are they trained? Do they have what they need? Do they have the resources? Do they know that they matter? Do they know that what they do has value? Do they know that you actually care, that they're there? So that's sort of that investment, right? When you talk about the people always sort of mindset. And then that mission, you have to make mission. We have things to do. People have work to do. We have objectives to hit. And so it's that balance of being able to create an environment where people know that you care, but you also have high standards. And
Mhm.
really great people have high standards. That's really what they want to do. And so it's that unique sort of chemistry, or that recipe that really, I think, brings out great organizations.
Yeah, and the leaders who sit at the center with this balance between the business outcomes, the impact, and the
Mhm.
people focus as well, because you need both.
You really do. You really do. And if you get one without the other, you get too much people centric, and you get this environment where people feel amazing. Oh my God, I love working here. It's so good, but we don't make mission. And then
Yeah,
the other side is where, if you're just all mission focused, then you're hemorrhaging talent. People don't know why they're there. You have a revolving door of talent. Like, those things are really challenging. And again, for what it's worth, I think about it as almost like an operating space, where if you put it at the front of the operating space is the mission, right? So is it clear? Is it clear to you? Is it clear to me? Is it clear to the organization? And then on the boundaries, right, is where you have guidelines related to providing a space for leaders to operate. So those left and right boundaries, some of them are fixed. So it's laws, ethics, finance,
mhm,
sort of those immutable truths, right?
mhm,
And then inside of that, you navigate a leader's ability, or a team's ability to operate within their space. So what I talk to teams a lot about is, I want to give you as much space as possible. When we first start to work together, I'm going to create narrower boundaries, because I don't know you. I don't know how you think. You don't know me.
sure,
So we're probably going to communicate more, right? There'll be a little bit more dialogue, but the goal is to open up your operating space as fast as possible, as wide as possible, within those ethical, legal, human resource boundaries, right? Because what I found with that is, when people are clear about the mission, when they know that they have the operating space, initiative, speed, just ambition, all those things just flow through an organization. And that's when people get super excited. And that's
mhm,
that balance, right? So I care about you. I want to make sure you have the resources. I'm going to help you with whatever you need. Sometimes they'll be at the front, sometimes they'll be at the back, sometimes they'll be pulling, sometimes they'll be pushing, depending on that nuance, right?
Yep.
It really comes down to creating an operating space for people and letting them know that I want you to run. I want you to run as fast. I want you to be creative. I want you to go as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah, and I think something to consider, which you're already doing, is when you kind of narrow in their, let's call it their wiggle room, their sandbox, you keep it a little bit rigid so that way they have some
Yep.
structure when they get started and they're not overwhelmed by almost too much autonomy, because that could happen, right? Like too much space to just go and
Absolutely.
be free and like not knowing, okay, who do I go to for this? And am I able to actually make this decision on my own? And that could be a tricky, situation as well.
Absolutely, which is why I'm very intentional about communicating that again with the new leaders, new business, new company, new division, whatever you want to, new role, however you want to paraphrase it, right? But it's wise, I think, to keep those boundaries narrow so you can set it,
Yeah.
and to be overt and communicative about here's why.
Yep.
Like, we're going to talk a lot. I'm going to listen a lot. I'm going to ask a lot of 5-year-old questions. Why, right? But the goal is that we establish quick trust. We establish an operating rhythm, and the goal is just to provide you as much space as possible so you can run as fast as you can.
And you're not spending time making assumptions or just, kind of going through that you think that how to operate and so forth, because that's also a slippery slope.
It really is. And if the operating space is narrow, if there are mistakes made, they're much more manageable early on, right?
Sure.
The other thing about creating that operating space for leaders within those boundaries, I talk about the fact that, forgive the sports analogy, but if you get closer to the sidelines, the play has to be more precise, right? If you're throwing the football, if you're cooking, whatever, you can be a little bit looser in the middle. But as you get towards those boundaries, ethical, legal, human resource, financial, phone a friend. Like as you get near those boundaries, that's when you need to take a partner, and because you're still going to be able to do okay, but let's be more precise. Double check, make sure. And again, this goes back to the military analogy. I was an artillery pound, projectiles downrange, and there were troops or friendlies or things on the left and right. So we had an operating space where you pretty much fire at will. But then as you got closer to the boundaries, you had a little bit more detail, a little bit more checks because you didn't want to cross those boundaries. So same kind of mindset.
I love the analogy. It has me also thinking about, this is a half-baked idea, around golf, because like golf, you got to be really precise. Even if you have a lot of space, a lot of range, a lot of fairway.
Yep.
If you don't hit it straight and you naturally slice right, there could be some issues.
Yes.
So what do you do as, I guess, a leader when someone comes in and they have a lot of energy and motivation to be good at golf, but and the role kind of expects them to be very good at it?
Yep.
But you're seeing that they're not really hitting the mark. What do you do there?
So it really comes down to an honest conversation about skills, abilities, and will, right? So one of the things to talk a lot about with talent and potential, so a desire to lead, a desire to learn, and a desire to listen. So, people with real potential are people that really, you kind of have to tick all those 3 boxes. But if you think about a golfer, and I'm a terrible, oh God, the game is so frustrating. I don't know how anybody's good at it, because I
thought you'd be a good golfer, Chris. You're surprising me here. Well, you have the mental, the patience, it seems like, or it's different on the range.
So I just have better things to do than to give up 6 to 8 hours on a Saturday. It just doesn't hit that. It doesn't hit that mark for me. But you watch these pros, right? These guys do this for a living. They feed their families on it. These men and women feed their families on it, and they still shank balls, right? So when you're dealing with people that are high proficiency, high skilled, it comes down to having a really good relationship, having really high trust, to be able to have those sort of conversations, right? So how you engage with people when you first meet them, new leaders, a new golf pro, or when a new golf pro comes in, I'm assuming that if they have a player, they don't just start telling them that they're terrible or fix this. There's probably like a warm-up period, like here's who I am, here's what I do, I think you do this well, tell me about, right? And that's just sort of a normal human interaction. So I think that same sort of interaction plays a really important role. One of the things that I think is you set people up for success, the first 90 days, right? One of the things that I do that I've heard is unique. When I have a new leader come on board, I protect them at all costs for the first 30 days. They do nothing for the organization for 30 days. And the reason is
intake mode.
What's that?
They're just kind of like in intake mode.
They are. They get to go meet everybody. They have an agenda, right? But they get to go talk to all the stakeholders. They get to go talk to their teams. They get to go listen. They get to go process. They get to go understand what's the environment and build relationships first. It doesn't always work, right? If you go to a turnaround, if you're in a nail biter, you got to get hot quick, right? But for most organizations, for most times, it's okay to give people space to just assimilate, like to really sort of get into the organization. Let me find out who's in charge, who's not in charge, who are my mavens, who are the disgruntled folks, who are the folks that probably should be leading, that are right. You have this whole equation, right? But if you take, and I use 30 days as a sort of a backstop, if you give new leaders, to your question about the Golf Pro, if you give them a chance to really understand the operation or the organization that they're going into, I think it really accelerates them faster. And I think a golf pro is no different. He or she's got to spend time understanding, like, what's in here, what's this muscle doing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So giving them space to kind of immerse themselves in, where they're going to spend most of their time in however many years, hopefully a good number.
Hopefully as long as they want to. Yeah. That's always the goal.
Yeah. And I guess it's what you're saying is the primary goal is to get people comfortable with the culture, what they're stepping into before they even get deep into like the work and the content. You have to know the environment that you're stepping into, because it's going to play a big role in how you do your day-to-day and take on that work.
Absolutely. And there's nothing more important. And there's tons of literature about this, about the people that you work with, just as a proxy, right? Whether it's your boss, there's tons of literature about how you feel about your boss and your supervisor. There's literature around, or there's studies around people that have a buddy at work.
Yeah.
There's things about, how do I feel about my team? Can I lead them? Who are the people that I can count on, right? Who can I trust? How can I build? So this whole ecosystem, right? And so how do you give people the opportunity to at least get that fresh perspective on who are these people and how does this organism really function? Because I think that's 51% of the solution, quite frankly.
What would be your headline to sell someone who is like, Chris, I got to see numbers, I got to see results right away, and they're not really bought into this, the servant leadership aspect, or the idea of getting people connected to like the mission, the vision first. They just want to see numbers right away. What's your selling point?
Yeah, the selling point is ROI. What's the return on investment, right? So I take accountability for whatever the business is doing for those 30 days, right? So come to me, I'll make sure that, whatever the trains run on time, the widgets move across the line, like whatever that looks like, right? So again, that's what I think servant leadership looks like. It's on me. It's on me to be able to provide an environment for that person. So 99 out of 100 times I'm able to do that. If not, then there's usually a partner or a peer that I can work with if I'm not an expert, or if it's something that I'm not able to do. So there's a communication like, hey, can you help me make sure that this person has an amazing start? We're going to protect them. We've got to, we lay out an agenda for them so that it's not just free time. There's deliverables. It's funny. I had someone that I hired recently, and I said, the only questions you're going to get from me is, how are you doing? And what do you know about your team? That's all I'm going to ask you in the first couple of weeks. That's it. I'm not going to ask you about KPI, nothing. I just want to know how you're doing. Like, how's it going? You like us? Are you happy with your choice? And then what have you learned about your team? And that's it, right? And so it's either me offsetting that, or it's, like I said, someone that can help me if the business is something I might not be highly skilled at.
Oh, great. Well, you sold me. I was already sold, but that was a great answer.
Good.
So, okay, another question for you, Chris. For, let's say, leaders who are, again, just starting to dip their toes into like what it means to be a servant leader, and recognizing, wow, I've actually been leading from kind of a business lens this whole time. And I do want to start to approach the way I lead from more of a people side, with a little bit more empathy and support. What are some maybe just tips and tricks or habits that they can start to bring into their day outside of like asking the simple, how are you doing? What else would you describe?
Yeah, so no dead plants in your office is usually a good start. Leaders with dead plants is never a good sign.
That's funny.
That's usually a good start point. Decorate your office.
Can I ask you, can we go there for a moment?
Yeah.
I hope my CEO is listening. What are your thoughts on fake plants in the office?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Because again, if you look, you could go down the whole green thumb thing, but yeah, at least make fake ones, right? But if you're going to put things that die, that you're supposed to care for in your office, it's a terrible message. It's a
bad message. Okay, I'll get on board with that. Fake plants over dead plants. Okay.
Yeah, that's always good. And then I think there's this shift around, because it is this dichotomy, right? I want to lead, I want to care for people, but I also have to get things done. So the most simplest way that I can think about this is on top. So we talked about mission, we talked about those boundaries. We talked about, mission first and people always, but to some degree too, there's a pragmatic way. If you think about what are the skills that people need to know by what time. So I understand that we have to make mission and that we have deliverables, right? Not everybody gets it right away. And businesses are complex organisms, or, people, or whatever you want to call it, schools, whatever sort of organization, right? So you have to give yourself a prescriptive amount of time. So it gives you permission to say, okay, I know the results are going to be not perfect yet, right? But so that gives me permission to say, you know what, I really want to invest in this person. And that's okay, because everybody's cool, that we know that as long as we're tracking on pace, then I can feel good about the fact that I'm engaging this person. I'm going to spend more time teaching. And that never stops, quite frankly. I don't know if I've ever, that just doesn't turn off ever.
Yeah.
But you set up sort of and the most efficient way to do this is to actually have that conversation with your person.
I was going to say, how transparent are you with this progression?
1,000%. Like, tell them, okay, here's the deal. Like, we're here. Do we agree that we're here? We need to be here. Your performance needs to be here. Do we agree? Do we have the right measurements, right? Processes, tools, measurements, routines. That's kind of the governance structure for how you move things forward. But then you have that conversation and it's like, okay, I need you to be here in 30 days. What do you need from me? What are you going to do? And then in the next 30 days here, and I'm using 30 as sort of as a guideline, right? If it's 32, doesn't matter. But I think it's that really honest conversation, because if somebody comes to me and is like, hey, look, I really care about you, and I'm going to be super honest with you, and we're going to get through this together, and we're going to set really high standards. So, and they're like, okay, here's what we are. Here's what I'm going to do as your leader. Or somebody comes to me and says, here's what I'm going to do to help you. Here's what I need you. Here's what I need us to be in 30 days. What do you need from me? Like, let's go get after it. Right. I'm here. Like, let's go. You need me to be in front. You need me to push. You need me to pull. I'm all in. But it's all of these things. And the last sort of nugget of this is consequences. What are the consequences if we don't? And consequences don't mean like you do this, you're fired. That's so binary. Like, the world doesn't work that way, right? None of us, very few of us have experienced those sort of harsh sort of consequences, right? It's like, okay, if we don't get here, and I'm making this up, like it could be, we don't get raises. We're not going to get the new account. We're not going to be able to deliver on our target. You might not get promoted. Like, there's a whole litany of things in between action. But then people also forget the positive consequences, right? Give people a reason to want to win.
Right.
So, okay, well, if we get here, like, there's a bonus. If we get here, you're going to get promoted. That's kind of that one's a tough one. But, there's positive things. You get a new office. You can, usually it's money. Usually it's time. You can get an extra week off, whatever that looks like, right? But it's this balance of be clear at the front, be clear about the high standards that you're setting, make sure that there's an agreed upon covenant between the two of us on what we're going to get done. And then what are the positive consequences? What happens if we do it? And what happens if we don't? I think that makes it easier for leaders when things don't go well, because having difficult conversations is difficult. But if you've already sort of like, hey, remember what we talked about? Like, it's not going well. So what are we doing? Like, let's have this out. Let's work.
It's not coming at a surprise at that point.
It's not. And it just makes, again, leadership is an imperfect science at best. I think we all try to do our very best, and humans are fascinating and variable and confusing and all those things. But just sort of these simple anchors to try to navigate where those pressure points are, I think really helps leaders balance. Like, I got to get the business done. I'm this crazy psycho numbers guy. Well, okay, how are you going to do that if you're alone? How's that going to work for you, right? And so you create sort of that structure that they can operate with care, concern, always, and be able to still navigate what those deliverables are.
Oh, tremendous. You're the analogy guy. I try my best. I don't really hit the mark, but I'm almost going to call it like servant leadership sandwich. We'll see how it sticks.
All right.
You're talking about like starting, me, you're my leader, and you're giving me the trust, the psychological safety and honesty of, I want you to meet these objectives up here, but I'm going to support you to get there. So you start with the servant leadership, the empathy, the honesty, transparency, and then getting them to this mark that they want to hit, and also asking them like, what can I do now while you're working there to support you? So it's like, we start with the honest conversation, people to people. Here's the business results that we need to hit. People to people. How am I going to get you there? It's a sandwich. Do you think it's a sandwich? Maybe it's a hot dog. I don't know.
It is. Yeah, that works. And I think the biggest part of this, and this is an overused, Martin Martin Luther King's I had a dream speech. It wasn't an I have a plan speech. It was I have a dream, right? So you create a vision that goes back to the mission. What are we trying to do? Like what is the big, and it's not even like the big idea, right? But it's, hey, we want to get this organization to deliver on these results. I want to be better than anybody else. I want you to get, I want you to have the biggest paycheck that you can manage for a sales organization, right? Like, what is the why? And if you can really put that sort of out there, not so far out there that it feels impossible, but out there and people really get it, and then you keep anchoring back on that with those conversations, it's this reminder, right? Of, hey, we're not doing this just for the numbers. We're doing this because like there's a bigger plan, there's a bigger dream here that we're all working towards, so that I want you to hit. And I'm in it with you. You still got to carry the water, but this is what we're here for.
And you're enrolling them likely in whatever process they want to take to get there. So giving them, again, some of that autonomy to hit that dream and to make it real for them.
You nailed it, Nicole. That's it. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you how I have to create the operating space. I have to create the time, because then it's like, go get it. Go, like, you got ideas. You have teams that have ideas. Like, use all your gifts, use all your talents. We want everything moving forward, and so it does create a different sort of energy, I think, in an organization.
Yeah. I mean, it's creating a different energy, just us having the conversation about it. I mean, of course it's going to have a impact in the organization. I love it. Oh, Chris, this is great. Let me check time. Oh, we're getting close, of course. Time flies. Let's do this. I didn't preface this with you, but we like to do kind of like a lightning round of just other questions. So I'm going to say it's going to be adjacent to servant leadership, maybe a little bit more about you as a person. Are you up for the challenge?
Always.
Okay, great.
I will fail in front of anybody.
There's no wrong answer here, so all good. But if there is, I'm glad to know that you're open to failing in front of our viewers.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, first question. What are you reading, watching, or listening to nowadays?
So watching, I just finished season 1 of Landman with Billy Bob Thornton on Paramount. Oh my God, so good.
I'm envisioning the billboard. There's something in Chicago. I've seen it on a bus stop.
Yes.
It's like desert-like. Where is this happening?
It's great. It's Texas oil. It's all about Texas oil.
Oh, it's
Texas oil.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's really interesting. So, and then I just finished reading a book called The Monster's Bones, which is the story of the first discovery of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So there was a time, like in the 1800s, that dinosaurs didn't exist. We had no concept of it. And so my daughter's studying to be a paleontologist, so this is kind of like a normal topic in my house. Anyway, so it was fascinating. It's the Wild West. It's like the gold rush for dinosaurs. You've got the Fields family from Chicago. You've got J.P. Morgan. You've got Carnegie. Morgan was New York. Carnegie was Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So yeah, like it was brilliant. It's all true. It's great. Fun read.
Where was the first bones? Where were the first T-Rex bones found?
Yeah, they were Utah. It was Utah. Yeah, out there. Wow. Yeah. So again, kind of nerdy, but it's a fun story.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Story.
I love it. Okay, let's see. Another question for you, Chris. If you could play any sport professionally, what would it be?
Ooh, I would say ice hockey. So I played as a kid, and my wife is a huge hockey fan. So that would mean that she would totally like watch me do stuff all the time. That'd be pretty fun. I just think it's a great sport. It's such a great sport. Yeah, we're big hockey fans.
What team would you want to play for if you had your choice?
Chicago Blackhawks. I grew up outside Chicago, so that was like my team. If not them, then the LA Kings.
Okay.
Because it's just another, like, because we live down in Southern California for a while. So either one of those.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, final question for you. I want you to think of one word, one quality about yourself that you really admire. And once you have it, let me know, but don't tell me what it is.
The one quality that I admire about myself?
I hope there's many, but I want you to pick one.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, so you're going to finish this sentence for me. If the world were more like Chris Homewood, it would be?
A mess.
A mess.
You know, he's like, that's like saying you only have one color to paint with, or like you only have one Lego to build something with. So no, it would like, so that the word that I came up was growth. Like I am just obsessed with just learning and growing. I just want to be better tomorrow than I was today. Like that's just as simple, but yeah, I think the world would be a mess.
A beautiful mess though. A lot of creativity and beautifulness comes from chaos. So
Absolutely.
you're in good company there.
Yeah, very much so. Very,
Awesome.
very much so.
Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure hosting you today.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, likewise, and hopefully it's not the last. But for our viewers, it is our last episode until next Thursday. You all can catch us on thaudium.com/live.